When tanks were first used in battle, 1916. During World War I, German machine guns posed a major challenge for the British and their Allied forces. As soon as Allied infantry came out of their trenches and advanced, the intense fire from German machine guns inflicted heavy casualties on them. Traditional cavalry attacks had already failed in modern warfare. Despite intense artillery bombardment and aerial assaults, the German army remained firmly entrenched in its strong defensive positions. At the Somme River in France, trenches stretched for several kilometers. On one side were the positions of the British and their French Allied forces, and on the other side were the German defensive lines. Any soldier who raised his head from the trench on either side would be shot down instantly by bullets from the opposing forces. Beneath the German trenches there were underground shelters up to 40 feet deep, where soldiers could take cover during bombardments. The British Army needed to cross the German trenches, which required a combat vehicle, capable of withstanding German machine gun fire and crossing the enemy's trenches. The idea of building such a vehicle came to British Army Colonel Ernest Swinton from observing Holt Caterpillar tractors which could move through mud. He thought that if an iron-plated vehicle with tracks like those tractors were equipped with machine guns, it could cross the enemy trenches. They presented this idea to their commander, and it eventually reached Winston Churchill, the British Navy minister at the time. He took this idea seriously and initiated a secret project to build a steel vehicle based on this concept. At the beginning, some tank prototypes were developed. Then, after passing through various stages, the Mark I was finalized. Thick steel sheets were used in its construction. Large steel plates were cut and mounted onto a strong structure so that it could be protected from enemy machine gun fire. Along with this, cannons and machine guns were also installed so that it could destroy trenches and bunkers. To deceive enemy spies, this iron vehicle was named a water-carrying tank, so that even if information about the project was leaked, its true purpose would not be understood. Since that day, this ground warfare weapon has been called a tank. These tanks were classified into two categories, male and female. The male tanks were equipped with 2 cannons and 3 machine guns, while the female tanks had only machine guns and no cannons. Each tank had 2 wheels at the back that helped them move forward. These tanks were secretly transported on trains to stations near the Somme. Then, on September 15, 1916, 32 tanks were deployed on the Somme front to crush the German trenches. Behind these tanks, British infantry units were also advancing. When the tanks appeared before the German soldiers for the first time, they were astonished to see these smoke-emitting armoured vehicles and, in fear, assumed them to be moving fortresses. They opened fire with their machine guns, but it had no effect on these iron vehicles. On the other hand, the cannons and machine guns mounted on the tanks were causing heavy damage to the Germans. However, these tanks had a major drawback. Their speed was extremely low, at only about 3 miles per hour. As a result, the soldiers following them would often overtake them. 14 of the tanks became stuck in mud and ditches, and of the remaining 10 were destroyed by German artillery. Only 8 tanks succeeded in reaching their designated positions. In their first engagement, the tanks failed to accomplish any notable achievement. On November 18th, British General Haig ordered the offensive to be halted. Although the tanks did not secure any significant success in their initial battle, they introduced a new dimension to warfare and demonstrated their importance in future wars.